and it's about to run its course, but not yet. There's still a few farms in the township that ought to be preserved before the next onslaught of development hits us. Because one more school will double our taxes again, just as the high school did. I don't know how many of you were taxpayers in the period of time before the new high school was built, as it was in the planning stage, but they started increasing taxes about 15 to 20% every year for 5 years preceding that. So it basically doubled our taxes. And that would happen again if another school had to be built, because that many more farms got developed. Thank you.
Anyone else from East Nottingham? Mr. Coates?
Do you need my name?
I do need your name.
Okay. Gary Victor Coates, 886 Waterway Road.
Thank you.
The unfair part that I see about it, and I'm part of the beneficiary of it, probably, is if I'm in my backyard and I don't have a farm, and my neighbor is having a party, I say, I'm not enjoying this. If I lived right alongside of a farm, my 0.5%, I'm going to go for that, because I'll get the view, where before this person already has his home, so he's not going to take advantage of that view. But he's going to pay the same percentage that I'm going to pay. That's the unfair part about it. You know. Now, if someone wants to build right alongside of our place, they get to see the wheat field. You know, and they're lucky at that. But not everybody, and everybody's going to pay the same thing. They're not going to get that view. So that's the unfair part.
Thank you. Anyone else from East Nottingham? No, you had your shot.
You're a resident, speak.
Yes.
Stand up. Say your name.
What's your name?
PJ Shees, 628 Little Elk Creek Road. You do get a vote on the open space tax every time you vote people in. The tax is a tool. If it's zero, you're not paying it. If there comes a property that's available, you collect money and you stop when the property's paid off. If you put houses there and you have to build more schools, you're always going to pay a tax. But you get the vote every time you vote for these people. If you don't want the tax increased, you vote people in who aren't going to increase the tax. That's where you get a vote every time you go to the polls. And that's where you keep the flexibility.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, I'm trying not to let us have double dippers until we get through everybody. All right, are we finished with East Nottingham? All right, we'll go to people who live within.
One back here.
Oh, sorry, please stand.
I'm Bob Tango, 176 Blackburn Drive. I just want to, I would appreciate a chance to vote. I wasn't even living here in 2004 when it was voted in. And probably a lot of other people have moved into the area who didn't vote on it one time. I would think it would be nice to give the voters a chance to vote on this issue.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I put my neck on a swivel here. Anybody else? Yes, sir. You?
Michael Watson, 416 Butler Lane. I say just leave out the referendum and leave it to the discretion of the board. I think it's dangerous to leave it up to people, especially as you can see, the overwhelming majority of us aren't even here. And as you mentioned, I think a lot of us are oblivious to the topic. We vote supervisors in to speak for us. I think they have the most knowledge on this, and we should kind of have our faith in the supervisors.
Thank you very much.
Michael, what was your last name again, please?
Watson.
Thank you.
Anyone else from East Nottingham? Mr. Bloom?
Scott Blum, 343 Freeze Road. I'd like to say that, I think putting it on a referendum is a bit of a mistake. A lot of us have run on the idea of getting rid of the tax, and we've basically done that. We've lowered the tax to 0. It is a great tool. It's an option for us as a township to help still keep some farms in the township. If it goes to referendum, or I can't say that right, I'm sorry. If it goes to vote, and it gets voted a no, then we do not have the option of purchasing open space land. And those farms will be sold off and they will be developed. And our taxes will go up. If it votes yes, for the next 5 years, we will not have an option to change it, and we will collect 0.5% from everybody. Every resident who works in the township, who has earned income, will pay 0.5%. So my vote is, at this point, if we're gonna keep it, we keep it at 0, which is what we plan as a board, either way. If it does go to vote, I for one will vote for it, because I think we need it to protect the township. And I will push every resident I know to vote for it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir, your name?
Bill Weaver, 94 Woodland Drive. I grew up on a dairy farm around here 64 years ago. I've lived in this auxiliary forever. And I have no problem paying 0.5% because I look around and, as you said, I know how much money it's going to cost. If we get true reward developments and another school comes along, I would much rather pay that 0.5% a year than have to go ahead and pay an extra $2,000 or $3,000 on 16 acres I have. You know, and I just think we have enough building, and I think the board of supervisors will like have those knowledge with it and know what's best to do with it. I think it's a good deal.
Yes, sir. Anyone else from East Nottingham? Okay, now we'll move to folks who live in the Oxford area school district. But nobody does? Okay, going once? Twice? Time? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Terry DeGnazio, Lower Oxford Township. Chester County is an award-winning county in the whole state of Pennsylvania because of their open space legislation that's throughout all the counties in Chester County. So East Nottingham actually was late to the party when they were pushing all the open space. And I think pretty much where we live looks like where we live because of the open space taxes that have been adopted throughout all southern Chester County. In East Nottingham, I think what it did is it really helped. You were going to islands in a stream. You're gonna have one farm here, one farm here, one farm there, one farm there. There was over 2,000 some houses that were approved to be built here prior to the economic collapse. Finally, they got the open space tax in, and they were able to connect and link, making an economic island in East Nottingham that could still play in the whole region's point of view. The Oxford Regional Comprehensive Plan that they just updated since 1969. They spent 3 years on it, meetings, I attended most of them, minutia questions. The entire school district agreed that agriculture was one of their #1 industries that they wanted to support. So we've done that, and we've been really successful in the fact that you have the tax, but you've been able to go to 0. So no one's, you know, but the option is, I think you just preserved a 200-acre farm on 250 somewhere, and actually they couldn't even use East Nottingham funding, but they were able to get county and state, and they would have done a little better maybe if they had the match, but there was some kind of glitch. So I applaud East Nottingham for stepping up to the plate when they did it. All that they've preserved is congratulations. You have joined the rest of the whole community, and you're keeping our school taxes under wraps, so we do not become Delaware County or Newcastle County.
Thank you. Anyone else from East Nottingham on the issue of the earned income tax? No. We'll get back after we hear everybody else. Okay? All right. Now we'll go to folks who don't live in the school district but live further away from that. Yes, sir.
John Goodall, Brandywine Conservancy. But if I could indulge, I have a few maps.
Sure.
Is that right? I live in Octorara School District, Highland Township. I also pay the tax. Many of you know me, some of you don't. As I said, I work for the Brandywine Conservancy, and I head up their outreach for preservation program. I've done a lot of work in this area over the years. I've been with the Conservancy for over 17 years and was involved in the first discussion on the referendum. And what I'd like to do is I could take a lot of time, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'd like to isolate my topics in support of the open space program to the agricultural
How much,
preservation.
excuse me, how much time will they be allowed?
Sir, I'm running this here.
Okay, just was curious if there was limits.
I'm gonna limit it to
You
6
got
minutes.
to go
How's that?
first,
Well, I wish I had 6 minutes.
please.
Just saying, I wish
This
I
is
had
still
6
the
minutes.
country, so we don't treat each other like that.
I don't think I'm being
Go ahead,
rude.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much. So as I said, I'm going to limit my dialogue to 2 components of where your open space dollars have gone, not to the ecological, recreational, or quality of life aspect, or whether your roads are open, but from the agricultural aspect and the fiscal aspect. The first is your agricultural aspect. You have 3 natural resources in East Nottingham and in southern Pennsylvania that make this critically important for preservation on an agricultural component standpoint. Your prime agricultural soils, your temperate climate, and the fact that you're non-irrigated. And what I mean by that is down here, and this is East Nottingham Township, and this is your aerial, these are all prime agricultural soils. Those are the best soils in the United States for growing agriculture. It's also the most vulnerable for development because prime agricultural soils are not just the type of soil, but the slope that it resides on because of erosion components. So when you have really good soils, you not only have very good farmland, you have very good opportunity for development because again, where you have great farmland, you have easily developable land. So most of East Nottingham is susceptible to development where your agricultural lands are. The only areas where you have non-prime soils is your stream corridors along the Big Elk and the tributaries that are coming into it. Other than that, you have magnificent soils here. This makes it incredibly important as an agricultural engine. When you add the temporal climate to it, it allows for a versatility of commodities that can be grown. That makes that agricultural sector very vibrant. That means it can be very reflective to the types of needs throughout the United States. So in southeast Pennsylvania, in this area in particular, in the Oxford region, you have incredible soils, great temperate climate. But let's add this last component. You're non-irrigated. What that means is you're not drawing water out of the Octorara or the Susquehanna to make these crops grow. We all read in the paper and watch on the news, boy, we're hurting out west. We're in a major drought situation. California is the major agricultural sector in the United States, but it's all irrigated. We do a better job here because we're non-irrigated. I grew up in Chester County, and there was something my father used to say to me when I was a little man. He used to say, by the 4th of July, high as an elephant's eye. He's talking about the corn. We drive along these rural roads, it's just like that today. And it's because of the climate, it's because of the soils, and it's because we're non-irrigated. When we add one more factor, this is demographics. We are within a day's drive of almost half the population of the United States. For agricultural security reasons, it's imperative that we keep these places in agriculture. Agriculture is the #1 industry in Chester County. It's one of the #1 industries in this mid-Atlantic region. And in southeastern Chester County, it is the #1 industry also. It's incredibly important to maintain. When it starts to be fragmented with development, you start to lose that continuity, and then you start to lose farming. That's why having this tool at the local level makes it so important. Now, the other aspect that I was going to bring up tonight is the fiscal ramifications. Last fall, when we were out here, we were talking about the cost of community service study. This is a study that we did in 2001 when we were going right through what we're doing right now. And what it is, it's an analysis of land use to taxes paid to the burden of taxes. So what that means is this. If you're a farmer and you're paying $1 in taxes, what are you asking back in services? We've just completed the study for 2015. We provided it to East Nottingham last week. I'm sorry it was late, but it takes us a while to get these things done. For every $1 the farmer pays in taxes, he asks for 3 cents in services. That's a 97-cent surplus for every $1 the farmer pays. Now let's convert that into development, into residents. For every $1 they pay in taxes, they ask for $1.08 in services. That's an 8-cent loss. I like to put this as fool's gold because when you have 100 houses on that farm now, that's a lot of money being generated, and it feels really good, and it feels like you're a wealthy person. But because of the deficit it's generated, because of the new schools that someone referred to back there, because of all the services, that they ask as residents of the community, and rightfully so, by the way, we're running at a deficit. That means those revenues have to be pulled from other funding streams. So again, for agricultural reasons alone, it's a great tool. And I realize that we've been very fiscally challenged over the last 8 years. I'm a part of this community, I understand that. But having this tool is a wonderful resource. The stewards of this community had elected to cut that tax and then cut that tax again. But it's on the books. When situations arise where it needs to be used, it can be reinstituted. Some of the people here are for it, some of them are against it. It did pass the first time, granted by a slim margin. It's a great tool. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. Anyone else from the way, as it were?
Or anyone else in period, I guess.
Yeah, period. All right, Ms. Rafi, you wanted to say something else?
Do the farmers have to accept it if you guys wanna buy the building rights?
No, no.
So
It's
you
a
could
volunteer.
collect all this money and they could all just say, no, we wanna sell to builders?
Certainly. Yeah, that's correct.
And can I ask one more thing?
Certainly.
Just like the tax right now, you're able to collect it, but you're not, can't that just continue another 5 years? Isn't
Not
that,
if
is that
it's-
part of the vote?
If it, no, if
If it
it,
gets voted yes, it has to be a half
It
percent.
goes
But
back.
wasn't that the same thing you just said that they voted on 5 years ago?
no, I'm sorry, if you're, in 2004, the referendum went into place,
Okay,
and that was a 0.5%, a half of 1%
definite collected.
tax, right. But what the law says is if the referendum question goes on, right now the rate is 0, the rate, and if it passes, the rate would go up to 5%. That's right in the law.
Half.
0.5%, sorry. Trying to generate a lot more revenue. So that's it. All right, now, sir, I know you want to talk more.
And please accept my apology. I wasn't trying to be rude, but
That's fine.
it wasn't purposeful. And thank you for your presentation. It was very knowledgeable. With that, may I ask him a question?
Sure.
Is that why the further out in the country you go, the taxes, for instance, in Lancaster and Lebanon County, is that why the tax base is lower? The further into the countryside you are?
So if you're talking about the more rural areas, and when your population is less, because your school tax is the largest burden you would have as a municipality, if you're saying if less people mean less taxes on your school tax, you're absolutely right. And a way to stabilize it is through things like this. The preservation of this land minimizes that sort of incredible increase in populations, where then you have to reflect it, as someone was saying, with an increase of school size, things of that nature.
I do have a question about the school capacity. Are we near capacity at our
I
school?
think that's beyond my purview. I don't know.
But it's been mentioned several times. I think it's pertinent to the argument. Are we going to need a school anytime soon? And is there a ratio between how much development we need to reach that pivotal level where we would need to do
I
that?
think those are very important questions. Tonight's hearing and the action is to either put it on the ballot or not. If it goes on the ballot, then what you speak of, it seems to me an educational program to explain things. And those, it seems to me, are very critical questions.
May I indulge you with one more short question?
Why not? Yeah.
Thank you. In 5 years or 6 years, couldn't this be rewritten and brought up different ways? I hear a lot of, if this happens, it's going to last forever. I understand we're going to have the 5% for the next 5 years, but after that, could it be brought up again for a yes or no vote?
Yes, after 5 years.
After.
The limitation is 5 years.
Pardon me?
If there are any farms left to preserve.
Okay.
That is
I just didn't hear you. Yeah.
Anyone else
Thank you.
want to speak?
Thank you very
again? Yes, Mr.
My name is
Warren.
Rick Warner, 699 Barron Road. I'm one of the individuals that the first time this referendum came around fought it. We spent a lot of money and we defeated it. The second time it came up by referendum, it passed. A group of us took a step back to take a look at, the voters exercised their constitutional right and voted to do this. So a group of us went to Chester County and to Harrisburg and tried to educate ourselves on the issue. And what we came away with was we were fighting it for the wrong reason. We were fighting it because of the politics and the people that were behind it, instead of understanding what it can actually do. What we came away with was, in my mind and everybody else was involved, was money. Nobody wants to spend the money. Everybody in here would not like to have to spend that earned income tax.